Bienvenidos. I'm Anthony Galang, and this is my beautiful wife, Son. Welcome to the 32nd edition of KNN, hosted in Mexico City, one of the largest cities in all the world, a population of 25 million people. Through KNN, we will see the miracles of God in Mexico.
God is using his modern-day movement to define Christianity for an entirely new generation around the world and in this great country.
The Mexico City Church has a Sunday attendance of over 5,000 people. In 1987, the Boston Church sent out 13 disciples to Mexico to start this great work. As we approach this year's special missions contribution, remember that disciples sold their homes and possessions and sacrificed financially to send out the Mexico City Church planting. Let's see how God has blessed this kind of sacrifice.
Jesus told us to bear fruit that will last. The first two baptisms in the Mexico City Church were two men, Alejandro Zamora and Juan Enrique Moguel. Today, Alejandro and his wife Gabby lead the new church in Cuernavaca, and Juan Enrique and his wife Sofia lead the spiritual recovery ministry in the Mexico City Church.
The Mexico City Church is full of miracle stories. You may remember Carlos Garcia, Spanish anchor for KNN. A total of 16 people in his family have become disciples since 1991.
This is the wonderful story of a Mexican family, my family. In 1991, my brother Eduardo's best friend invited him to church, and he made the decision to become a disciple, and he was baptized 1 month later. 1 month after that, my sister Veronica was also baptized. Then my brother Fabian came to church and was baptized. At the end of that year, my mother was baptized.
En 1992, yo, Carlos Garcia, fui bautizado.
In 1992, I was baptized. In 1994, my brother Guillermo and his wife Virginia were baptized. That same year, my brother Arturo and his wife Angie were baptized.
El último milagro que hemos visto esta familia es que después de 8 años.
The most recent miracle in our family was my father getting baptized after 8 years. Now we're waiting for my little brother to grow up so he can be baptized too.
Para que también pueda ser bautizado. Dios ha bendecido mucho a nuestra familia. En 1996, mi hermano Eduardo.
God has incredibly blessed our family. In 1996, my brother Eduardo married his best friend Angelica, and now they've had their first baby. In 1997, my sister married the brother who first shared with Eduardo, and now Alejandro is my brother-in-law. This same year, Viviana and I married, and recently we gave birth to our daughter Bianca. God has truly blessed our family, adding friends and more family members to this long chain. Now we have nieces and nephews who in just a few years will be disciples too. These are my cousins. Here is one that recently got married, and many people will follow in her steps. We're very happy and grateful to God for how He's changed our family. And very grateful to all of you because thanks to your generous contributions to the Mexico City Church, we've been able to see God's dream in our lives. Please keep giving because in our case, it's been worth every single penny. Thank you.
Pronto seré un discípulo.
Our churches are characterized by Jesus' love for all people. In the Mexico City Church, many are professionals, but many are from poor outlying areas. We sent a KNN camera crew along with one of the disciples to help us understand her sacrifices in just coming to church services.
Lulu Garcia, a disciple from the Mexico City Church, lives in the outlying village of Toluca with her children and grandchildren, a great distance from the closest church.
I make breakfast for my family. I prepare a meal for all of us before it gets too late. We don't want to miss the bus. They don't come very often.
Disciples sometimes forget what sacrifices others must make in order to keep their commitment to God, including coming to church. Even though the goal of planting a church in every nation with a city of 100,000 is in sight, the work has just begun. There is still a great need to start churches in outlying districts of all the countries of the world. Prayerfully, one day a church will be planted near Lulu because she cannot afford to take her whole family to church each week. She has to take a long bus ride and 2 subways, which cost $7 per person. When she is working, she makes $35 per week. That's 1/5 of her weekly income per person to come to church. Now that's commitment.
Brothers and sisters, Lulu possesses the spirit we all need to imitate. The next time you're tempted to complain about your circumstances, take inventory of what God has given you. Remember the heart of Lulu.
The Mexico City Church has baptized thousands of great disciples. They have also planted 10 churches in Mexico and Central America. The church in Guatemala City was planted in 1994. Incredibly, God has grown their Sunday attendance to 1,500 people a week. Many disciples volunteer for Hope Worldwide in their AIDS education outreach. Hope Worldwide workers set up an extensive program for parents and teens at a different middle school every week. After an informative teaching session, 2 disciples speak to an attentive audience about their own experience. Both of these brothers are HIV positive.
I would like to help you understand the HIV virus. I was infected when I was 18 years old. And really, when you're at that age, you don't think of the consequences. I got AIDS a few years ago. When you're young, we listen to others talk and we want to have sexual experiences, and we simply give in to peer pressure. I feel guilty at times for having let myself go for a moment, thinking I needed something that only led me into problems. Fortunately, I had the support of my brother. The hard thing was having to endure what other family members would say and their accusations when I really needed their support.
Gracias.
Last year, devastating floods swept through Central America. Here is Hope Worldwide's report on the relief effort that brought new hope to many families.
The horrendous floods that struck the provinces outside of Mexico City in recent months drowned thousands of people. Many died buried in mudslides. Hundreds of thousands of others lost their homes and/or all of their earthly possessions. Towns, homes, and entire families were washed away by the swelling rivers. Many disciples of the churches in Mexico City, and Puebla in particular, had close relatives severely affected by the floods. Through your generous hope contributions, God's helping hand and caring heart have been felt powerfully.
Mi nombre es Omar Zavala Reyes. Tengo 9 años. Me cayó un cerro encima. Es que yo estaba durmiendo y llovía mucho. Y me cayó un palo encima aquí. Y me llevaron al doctor, me pusieron la boca, sacaron el lodo de la boca y vomitaba lodo. Y tenía lodo aquí, en los ojos aquí, y en la boca, y en los oídos.
In each township visited, we distributed food and clothing to many grateful people. The entire community lined up to form a human chain to unload the relief supplies from the truck. It was clear to all of us that God was showing us the depth of His unlimited love.
Recently, the Mexico City Church hit another milestone. Kent McKean announced that the church would be completely led by nationals for the very first time.
Not just the Mexico City Church,
no solo la Iglesia de Cristo de México,
but all of Mexico and all of Central America.
Pero todo México y todo Centroamérica.
And we believe that the Holy Spirit has set aside Josue and Veronica Ortega to do the job.
Y creemos que el Espíritu Santo ha establecido a Josué y a Verónica Ortega para este cargo.
¿Sabes? Dios tiene planes increíbles para esta iglesia. Dios quiere hacer cosas radicales en nuestras vidas.
After wrestling for many months,
después de estar orando por muchos meses,
wrestling with God, wrestling in prayer, and wrestling with the Word,
luchando en busca en la palabra, luchando en busca con Dios y con oración,
we have asked Peter and Laura Garcia Bengochea to join us in Los Angeles and help us lead the Los Angeles Church.
Hay tantas personas, caras, que vemos y recordamos tanto. Momentos buenos, momentos difíciles.
Our KNN Spotlight focuses on the Arts Media Sports Ministry of the Mexico City Church. Yvonne Bronstam is a well-known actor on evening television in Mexico. He has appeared in primetime shows for 4 years. He wrote and directed the original Spanish video that was the basis for our KNN dramatic, Where To, Sir? 2 years ago, he shared his faith with his manager, Rocio Martinez, and she became a disciple. Hector Sanchez is another well-known actor in Mexico. Yvonne baptized him into Christ in 1999. Together, they're having a great impact on the entertainment industry.
Disciples love to share their lives with others. But how would you feel about welcoming a TV crew into your home for 1 week to film how you live? That's exactly what some brothers did from the London church. The results were broadcast from a British television show, Living with the Enemy.
Damien Thompson is a critic and journalist. He's preparing for a unique experience. 1 week living amongst them as a church member.
We don't really convert anyone. It's you know, God will draw people to him whose hearts are open. And if Damien's heart is open and his time is now and he's ready for it, well then, great. We're definitely going to try.
Maybe you're here today for the first time. Make a decision. I'm going to study the Bible. Yeah. I want to open up the Bible with these guys. I want to learn from them. You can tell, if you've been here for a couple hours, that we're sincere.
One moment I was thinking, they're not so bad. These are nice kids. The next I was thinking, ugh, that's a bit creepy. Yuck, I can see why people don't like this group. And then back again.
The sin list, as it tends to be called in the tabloids, is one of the major charges against your church, or rather what many Christians would consider the misapplication of biblical principles.
Obviously, the sin study is not something you would do with somebody who's not interested or someone who you don't really have built a relationship with.
I was pretty determined when I came here that I wasn't going to give anybody my phone number. And now, you know, I'd be really happy to give the guys in this house my phone number because I really feel I can trust them.
Is Damien going to one day join the London Church for Christ? I don't know, but his life is not going to be the same after this.
Kim McKean and the World Sector leaders kicked off the new millennium by announcing a new world sector called The Net. Russ and Gail Ewell, leaders of the great San Francisco church, were called by God to be the world sector leaders in this new frontier of evangelism. The Net stands for New Media, Exceptional Children, and Technology. Russ and Gail are kingdom treasures. Converted as students at Boston University and Northeastern University, Russ and Gail fell in love and married while leading the teen ministry of the Boston Church. In June of 1993, they moved to lead the San Francisco church, whose Sunday attendance is almost 4,000 people. Russ immediately began a ministry in Silicon Valley that now has 600 disciples. The San Francisco church initiated the very first web page for the kingdom in 1996. Many people are saying that the internet is the most important invention since the printing press. It will affect every aspect of life at rapid speed, both good and evil. You can either learn how to save a life or build a bomb. Gail Ewell has been charged by KIPP and the World Sector leaders to lead our efforts for exceptional children with special needs. The Ewells have 2 special sons. Jonathan has Down syndrome and Jordan has several challenging health problems. God has taught Russ and Gail many great lessons through this. They seized the opportunity to serve and have developed a great reputation in the kingdom and the community. The Middle East World Sector is now being led by Kip and Elena McKean, assisted by Guillermo and Terry Adame, and my wife and myself. Corey and Megan Blackwell have decided to step out of the full-time ministry and take care of their family needs. We love Corey and Megan because they have been instrumental in setting up dynamic ministries in South Central Los Angeles, as well as churches throughout the Middle East. Please continue praying for them.
March is known as Women's History Month. Women disciples are changing the world. Led by Elena Garcia McKean, the 4,600 women disciples of the Los Angeles Church had a record attendance of 14,217 at their Women's Days. Speakers from around the world powerfully preached the word. The new K&N film, Secrets of the Heart, debuted to rave reviews. Other Women's Days were held around the world with incredible success. The Moscow Church had an attendance of 4,300. The London Church had 6,000, and the Mexico City Church had over 7,000. Women's ministry leader of the Central and South America World Sector, Laura Garcia, had 18 of her friends to this exciting event. We are so proud of the Sisters of the Kingdom. From an eternal perspective, this is the most significant women's movement of our time. National news media in the U.S. took note when Janet Dixon, a single African-American sister living in North Hollywood, donated her kidney to Dennis Gates, a white disciple with 4 children living in Simi Valley.
In Southern California, Janet Dixon is ready to donate a kidney to Dennis Gates. They're friends who met in church.
You know, we have a colorblind thing in the church, which is I just so love. You know, it's one of the things that really first attracted me to the church. So.
You know, I see Janet being a follower of Christ, and she has that heart to meet needs. And she's definitely met a huge need in my family and with me personally. And it's the greatest gift that I could possibly get this year. So absolutely, she's a very giving person and just has the heart of Jesus.
I've got great news from media law. Recently, a federal district court from the Southern District of New York gave us an amazing victory for campus ministries. About 2 years ago, Andrea Lark, one of our campus ministers at the State University of New York, was studying the Bible with another student on campus. Unfortunately, this student became upset and complained to the authorities. The administration began an administrative procedure against Andrea, an honor student, and actually had her banned from campus. We quickly became involved and initiated an action in federal court. Once we set the case for trial, the Attorney General for the state of New York became very eager to settle this case. They contacted us and we reached an agreement which was supported by the court. Defendants, that's the university, shall permit Miss Lark to participate in and work for the Church of Christ, to practice her religious faith, to attend church services, to proselytize, to do any of these activities on or off the SUNY campus within the bounds of the First Amendment, and otherwise to engage in any activity protected by the First Amendment to the United States Constitution. It's great to know that God is protecting us on our campuses as we continue to advance His kingdom and raise up the next generation of disciples and leaders for the modern-day movement of God.
It's crucial for us to pass on our convictions to our children. DPI is printing the final quarter of the Kingdom Kids curriculum.
Ultimately, it's about a God and about the incredible tool that He wanted to have for His church.
The Kingdom Kids curriculum is one of the most ambitious efforts ever undertaken to produce a children's educational program for churches. Because of the hearts of the talented disciples and the volunteer efforts of 13 churches, the entire curriculum was written and produced in only 4 years. Over 120,000 hours have been invested, and almost 11,000 pages have been printed, which included more than 6,000 illustrations.
The Sihanouk Hospital Center of Hope in Cambodia has been a great inspiration to the entire kingdom. Already, more than 250,000 patient treatments have been provided to those who have no other access to free medical care. We know that many medical professionals have become Christians through this great work. We remember the sacrifice of doctors and nurses who have left the comforts of their practices and suburban lives to serve those in need in Cambodia. The hospital is in great need of Christian medical staff to commit to 1 year of service in Cambodia. This is a great opportunity to share talents and experience, as well as extend Jesus' love to those who have so little. These are the medical volunteers they are praying for: emergency room physicians, pharmacists, anesthesiologists, skilled nurses, and public relations staff. Visit the Hope Worldwide website to find details and contact information.
God put the 6-year plan on the hearts of KIPP and the world sector leaders in 1994. The goal to plant a church of true disciples in every nation with a city of at least 100,000 by the end of the year 2000. By God's power, we're closing in on that goal. God's modern-day movement now has 380 churches in 160 nations, and only 11 are waiting. Our countdown is almost complete. By faith, all the nations that are waiting will be planted by July of this year.
That brings us to the end of another edition of KNN. We look forward to bringing you Celebration 2000 in honor of the completion of the 6-year plan. We will also bring you a special Team KNN.
Soon we will all be giving to special missions contribution. And for some of us, it'll be the very first time. And for some of us, it may be the 20th time. But regardless of how many times you've given to missions, never lose your joy in giving. I really believe as disciples of Christ, we're the luckiest people in the whole world. God has given us the purpose of seeking and saving the lost. And we must understand the numbers of disciples in God's movement today is a drop in the bucket in comparison to the world population of 6 billion people. In many ways, we're just in the beginning. Not just in getting to all these nations, but saturating them completely with the gospel of Jesus Christ. Brothers and sisters, let's give joyfully in our missions contribution. Remember, our sacrifice will make the difference.